All right, all right, all right. You know what time it is. Yes, yes, yes. We are back for another one, an open court discussion in the counselor's corner. I am your host, David Lorenzo Glover, aka the controversial counselor. Joining me, he's not in his studio right now, but as he'll be right back, is the big bad wolf, Herb Lewis. The other panel members will be a Showtime decision. Recap from this past Monday's broadcast: non disclosure for non exclusive relationship. All right. He's back in here. So, I know all of y'all look forward to see what type of growl it's going to be. Herb Lewis, the big bad wolf. All
Oh,
right. So, our focus with that show was mainly why people do not disclose info, mainly to keep people out your damn business, and understanding your personnel, who you are sharing with, matters. And if you want to go back to watch the replay of that, subscribe or go to the YouTube channel, The Controversial Counselor. Okay, focus shift to tonight, December 19th. Our topic will be not looking for a relationship to last, only to smash. Wow. Wow. And this was based off the post from the Counselor's Corner where I said some men refuse to date women with children because they don't want the little crumb snatchers to get attached. Because deep down inside, their agenda is only to smash. I know that sounds kind of harsh, but sometimes you have to deal with the harsh truth or harsh reality. All right, segment two. Do men really care about women's accomplishments and social status, or is it based on women's sexual status, such as how many sexual partners have you had? If she's ever given up sex for money, or do you hang with like slutty like girlfriends, the crowd that you keep? Those are just a couple things. Um, so again, happy holidays. This should get quite interesting. Tune in, like, and share our video, and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Controversial Counselor. So, what's going on with you, Big Bad Wolf?
man, the Cowboys botched another one. I'm so glad that I don't watch. I'm gonna preface this by saying I still reserve the right to watch. I'm so glad I don't watch the games like I once did, because I would have been thoroughly pissed with what happened yesterday. Thoroughly pissed.
Yeah, between them
They my
blowing it.
boys. I ain't bailing, but I know bad shit when I see it.
So yeah, I had a
I'm
year of
that's
stress.
that's not the disrespect,
See, I had a year of stress free.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. But
Can you hear me?
yeah, I can. Yeah.
Uh,
Sound like
yeah,
you were cutting in and out. I don't
yeah.
know if it's
Had a year of stress free football because I knew the Steelers was probably out of it like week 2 or 3. So I just been watching and seeing them get progressively better throughout the year. So next year they should be, back into, I ain't gonna say contention, but at least maybe playoff bound. But I'm looking forward to seeing what the Bills gonna do. Cowboys, they got their work cut out in the NFC with the
hey,
Eagles and the 49ers. Man, everybody got themselves cut out with the 49ers, but so it should be interesting.
you know what, man? Speaking just speaking of not necessarily football, but sports in general, I get tired of two things with let me call them casual sports fans. One is the nonsense that sports is fixed. Okay. I don't know if anybody out there listening or going to listen has actually played any sports, at least from the high school level on up. Stop with that nonsense. Okay, just stop. Cats are not. I can understand you saying, some point saving is going on, things of that nature, but talking about is fixed. When was the last time you actually went to do a job, put your potential welfare on the line for a game that was already decided. Stop with the nonsense, people. Come on. This is a PSA. Stop with the nonsense. If you think sports is fixed, go watch wrestling. At least we know that is. But you're talking about baseball, basketball, hockey. Stop. Just stop. Do me a favor. Just stop. It's just crazy, man.
All right. What else is anything else
Oh,
going
boy.
on in your world?
No, man. I'm just, it's for me, it's, I'm in quasi survival mode because the winter just does me and I get lethargic, man. It's almost that like that seasonal deficiency disorder that I have, and I've never been diagnosed. I just know when daylight savings time hits, it takes me about a week or so to get back from that, and then I just don't do anything. Like I'm not outside, I'm not biking, I'm not exercising like that. So I have to find a way to start keeping busy, at least physically. Mentally, I'm always in tune, but physically, I'm not there. And I think as I progress in my age, I just turned 51 and really don't seem like it. But as I progressively get older, I get tired of the cold weather, and I'm contemplating moving to somewhere else. And I'm thinking, do I really want to go through that? Do I really, at this particular point in my life, do I really want to just pick up whole shop and move somewhere else? And if I do, where? So just some things that I ponder daily now. But that is what it is. It's life, I suppose. Some people might call it a midlife crisis. I'm thinking at this age, ain't a midlife anymore. I'm past midlife. So
Mm.
yeah, it is what it is.
Well, for me, it's the dog days of this last few days before the well-deserved uh, holiday break. Yeah, boy, they definitely trying to give us a run for the money. I tell you, I'm telling you, I just got to get focused and sit down and really put a plan to action for Middle School Madness, that book, because for those of you who have middle school kids, you don't even understand what goes down, the things that we see and hear on a regular basis, the things that happen in the schoolhouse. You wouldn't believe it. I always said, and I said it on here numerous times, if I had money like that, I would I would create the first model of the one-stop shop school. Again, where the school would have drug and alcohol counselors, because these middle school kids, they smoke more weed than shit. I don't even know an analogy to put it. The vaping is out of control. So I would have a drug and alcohol rehab in the school. I would have Department of Social Services, a representative there. I would have um, the Department of Motor Vehicles. So for when parents or whatever say they need to get ID or license, I would have even a section off for people that's homeless and need somewhere to stay. They would be out at a different wing, kind of like where nobody would know that they're actually staying there. And just that's what you that's what's needed. Everything. I mean, that's what's needed for schools. Somebody needs to create a different model from what we have now, because it's so many things that's needed in schools that we just don't have the personnel to handle all the things that go on a day to day basis. So that's just that.
And in all honesty, I think we are closer that certainly the need, but we are closer to constructing those than we realize, and this feeds into a couple different other things. Um, I was, and I would be remiss, if I didn't at least touch on it, because we do talk about mental health on this particular platform often enough. With the passing of DJ Twitch, and now I personally didn't watch the Ellen DeGeneres show, and it wasn't until I caught wind of it. But and always acknowledgement to the brother doing the yeoman's work over there on his platform, Dr. T. Hazan Johnson. And he was talking about this particular thing and how the need for, especially black men, because we're not. And I was talking to my older brother about this particular thing. We're not afforded the opportunity to really sit down in a safe environment that won't judge us, at least punitively, and discuss the things that we endure on a daily basis. It's that shut up and work. You don't hurt. You don't feel pain. And in some instances, no one cares. At least, the empathy and sympathy we seem to get is nowhere near what other genders and ethnicities get. Yes, I said genders. I'm not going to get into that particular thing, but so and this starts for us. This starts in pre-adolescence, like childhood. We're always treated differently, and I don't care what anyone says. The numbers aren't necessarily there because, simply put, it's not a concern. So all of that stuff, it eventually it builds up, and you get to a situation. I think he was 40.
Yeah.
That's young. That's young. So I think there's, sooner or later, a lot of that stuff, um, it comes to a head, and for better or worse, we as individual black men, and I'm saying the common everyday punch the clock, solid young black men, we might have to start just funding this out of our pocket.
And one of the things to tie into that, and then we'll jump into the subject matter. I think, like you said, that we may not have that safe space, but the spaces that we do have, I think it's the false bravado that we give off as black men to let people know, like, damn, I'm hurting inside. We can't we can't say those actual words. Uh, People, we have to say stuff like, "Oh, I'm fucked up right now," or to try to make it cool, or whatever the case is. But instead of just saying, "Man, I'm doing bad," uh, I'm hurting inside right now, because if you said that to one of your homeboys, or probably brother, sister, they probably gonna be like, "Man, get your shit together," or whatever the case is, and not come with legitimate questions and say, like, what's going on, or why are you feeling that way, or certain things like that. So I think the level of communication, or just being real, we have to be able to have those spaces to just even be real and authentic, instead of trying to sugarcoat or trying to be cool with stuff, and knowing that's not the situation. Because I think Michael Baisden wrote a book a long time ago called "Man Cry in the Dark," instead of crying in the
Oh,
dark. So that's that. That's a whole different subject matter. But we're gonna talk about why we're here today. The purpose is not looking for a relationship to last, only to smash. And like I said in the introduction, this was based off of a post that I put in the counselor's corner. Some men refuse to date women with children because they don't want the little crumb snatchers to get attached, because deep down inside their agenda is only to smash. What's your take on that, big bad wolf?
having been a part of the original group, Say No to Single Mothers, not only is that particular aspect out there, a lot of men, just simply put, they don't want to deal with the hassle. For better or for worse, they look at, as the adage for some of them goes, they're just there for recreation. And this is something I touched on last week when we were talking about the NDA, is that for women, that NDA goes out the window once you come up pregnant and you're not married. You're not in a at least somewhat publicly acknowledged relationship. People want to start asking, well, who's the daddy? And if you don't disclose it, then you're automatically branded. unfairly or otherwise. And I'm not taking a side here. I'm just putting it out there in the sphere, if you will, as to how men view it. So if you not, at least to those particular men that might have an interest in you still, those men are curious now. What's her mode of behavior? Is she for, as some people say, is she for the streets, or is this a one-time thing? So you're gonna get men that are going to look at you purely from a sexual standpoint. They going, as we like to say, they're gonna try your jaw. In other words, you're gonna get some men that approach you in a manner that's unflattering. You're gonna get some men probably messaging you personally, want to know, hey, look, can we Netflix and chill? Because that's all they see you as. This is why a lot of men are telling women, marry before you carry. So the women reply, well, why do we have to get married if we want to have sex? You don't. But understand, you're playing a game, and this game has very little margin for error. And on the other side of error, especially now with the overturning at the federal level of Roe versus Wade, is this: if you live in a state, and some people call them red states, I'll call them what they are. They're states that are usually in the Bible Belt, that have um, already moved to get legislation on the books that has outlawed abortion almost completely. Doesn't matter if it's in a case of incest, rape, or some other nature, some other violent nature. You have to carry that child to term. Okay, those laws are out there in those particular states. I would advise people to look up your particular state. I know in New York State, abortion is still legal. You'll find mostly in Democratic and most Democratic run states, it's still legal. So there's that aspect. So once you do conceive, there is no morning after pill. Actually, I'm sorry, before you conceive, there is no morning after pill. Condom breaks, or your birth control fails, or whatever the case is that leads you to conceive, you're now in a position. Do you leave the state and go have the medical procedure done? Do you carry that child to term and put it up for adoption or allow somebody else to raise it? Or do you carry on and you try and work something out with the father? That way you and the child aren't in a bad situation. Or do you become a single mother? It's not an easy road to hoe or hold a row. So I mean, pardon the use of the pun, but it's not easy, and I think, as a society, these are discussions that we need to sit down and start having with these kids as early as their comprehension allows. So they're not in these particular positions. They're not in these situations. And they don't have to, put themselves in an adult situation when they're young teens. They're getting into the 20s. They might be in college. They got their whole life literally ahead of them. And because of a night of indiscretion, they're in a bad way. So yeah, there's some men out there that are, once they see that, they say, hey, look, all I got is gum. I already chewed gum and stiff wood for you. And that's all they're willing to offer. It's like I said, it's an unfair situation for a lot of women in terms of them being viewed differently. And I think, especially in Black America, in the 1950s and 60s, I think the church and the culture, particularly at that point, kept a lot of this stuff in check. And when I say in check, not that it wasn't happening, but people were always aware that especially if the man got involved and he was known, they tell you stay away from him. He ain't no good. He out here knocking up women and leaving them. The mothers would tell you that because the mothers knew who the father was. Now, the father may not have always known because sometimes he was kept out the loop, because we all know how Pops was coming. Pops was coming with that thing. Hey, look, you going to marry her. You going to make an honest woman of her. You're not going to come out here getting the goods, get some, and then leave. That wasn't played back then. This is, and that whole shotgun thing, that was real. We've discussed that on this particular platform before. Take that away, and a whole lot goes. So it's hey man,
So
it's
so
it's yeah.
even with that, even not even going that deep on the initial level, when you have a single female with young children, and you can see some of the stuff on social media, things that's posted, and some of the comments or the stats, or they out there, they're trying to find a man, or they're looking for someone to have matching pajamas during the holiday season, and all of those different things that they're looking for. um, but would we say that some men that target females with kids, do you think they have a low opinion of themselves to say, "Hey, let me let me go over here," because they, they again, we always talk about some men travel the path of least resistance, so they may understand like she's not in that she's not in that situation to call a shot. So if he's a quality guy, he may say, "Hey, I go over here, but hey, I'm gonna pick my poison when I want to come over here or not, or I'm only coming through late night. I don't really want to see the kids or whatever the case is. In fact, I don't never got to see their asses. I'm just gonna be in and out." Do you think some guys may have a low opinion of themselves instead of saying, "You know what? Let me find someone that's going to be a challenge and go that route," instead of saying, "She got two or three kids, ain't got no babysitter, ain't I can still do what I got to do." Uh, so they kind of strategically end up in those type of situations.
Yeah, I think there's something to that, and I'm gonna explore that like this. There are some guys who absolutely do not want to work to get a decent woman. And when I say that, and this is not to say that single mothers aren't decent women. I want to make sure that that's clear, okay? But there are some men who absolutely do not want to work to get a decent woman. One, because simply put, they can't meet her demands. They don't measure up to her expectations, no matter how outrageous that woman's expectations may be, they're hers, and she has every right to have them. I know there's a lot of fellas out there talking about, their expectations are too great. They need to lower the level um of whatever it is they want. I can't recall it at the time. There's a particular way that's being phrased, but yeah, absolutely. Those men are out there, and you will know. I'm gonna tell you now. You will know who these type of men are by the things they discuss, by the way they treat women in a loose way of speaking. In other words, when they find out that a woman is a single mother and she doesn't have a steady man in her life, or she's not around the father of the kids in that regard, do they flock to her immediately, or do they just disappear? Um, like I said, I've seen it. She got kids. Who the kids by? Oh, you don't know? What's the number? The women may not see these conversations take place, but the men know. We know what men are dealing explicitly with single mothers just because they want easy sex. They don't want to have to go through they want to, like David said, they want to go through the path of least resistance. They don't have it in them to pursue a woman who might have a graduate degree. She's a registered nurse, and I know what they say about nurses. I'm not going to deal with that particular aspect of this right now. Shout out to Alan Roger Curry. Um, but there's some men out there that don't want to deal with professional women because they got to meet a standard, and some of those men that, simply put, they can't meet a standard.
And it's a couple things that's resonating in my mind right now. And one of the things, some of you, and then, I mentioned before about not having childcare or daycare. So some guys may look at that, but also if you're someone who's always out on the scene every weekend, and I know we all say, "Oh, we got to have a reliever. I worked hard and all that," but if you're out on the scene visibly at every damn party, every damn event, it's safe to say they may say you're looking for something. You're out there looking, and some guys observe that, and they understand. They understand that sometimes you just got to disappear. You got to disappear for a while, then resurface, and you guaranteed to get a different outcome of maybe the guys that's going to approach you. Oh, what's going on, Doug? How you doing? Ronell said, when I got divorced and started to date again, Bad Wolf is speaking the truth. Okay, all right. Appreciate that acknowledgement. But let me, before Herb dive in, let me also go into another point. Sometimes these guys, it's a crush that they used to have on these females. If they grew up, they're chasing that silver bullet, and they like, man, I used to like her, and now she's coming with two or three kids, and you're still chasing that high that you were chasing when you were 16, 17, but now you're in your late 30s or 40s, and you're like, man, I finally got it. That package ain't it's not gonna be the same. It's gonna be a little bit different. So some guys go that route because they're still, again, like I said, chasing that silver bullet. And thinking about, man, you don't know how I used to feel about you back in the days. Well, sure, it's a little different now. All right, I'll pass the mic on. uh,
You know what? And I think that's something that is rarely discussed because let's go back to when we were sophomores and juniors, particularly because as you get to that senior year, if you're a guy, that has something going for himself, and when I say that, I mean if you're a guy, I was in my senior year in high school because I dropped out when I was a freshman. I had kind of aged out of certain things, so I wasn't able to play sports unless I petitioned the section. I think it was section 6 director, an athletic director, and at that time it was a former principal that I know, but I didn't go that route. So if you got a guy that's in the sports or he's working, he generally is not going to take the time to get involved with females to the extent that he's dealing with them like that. And what I mean by that is if he's sexually active, somebody's in his ear. They're telling him, hey, look, we know you out here doing the thing, but make sure you go to great lengths to protect yourself so you don't end up with somebody pregnant in your senior year. So, your sophomore, junior years, you start seeing a couple of females. You say, hey, yo, she looking nice. I wonder what it's like. And a lot of men, they hold on to that. And it's like David said, 6, 7, 8 years later, or maybe at that 10-year reunion, you see her and she got a kid. You saying, your dream has been crushed. Like literally, you woke up from a beautiful dream into a terrible nightmare. But you still want to revisit that dream. You still want to go back and say, this is what I wanted. And you get there and all of a sudden, it ain't what you thought it was going to be. So now you left, trying to pick up these pieces. And the pieces don't exist for anyone else. They only exist in your mind. So now you're stuck with a dilemma. Do I deal with this female continuously or do I move on? And more often than not, men with some reasonableness about them, they say, I got to move on. And this is why you hear people talk about, well, when we had sex and he just ghosted me, was the sex that bad? No. But it wasn't what he thought it was going to be. And women have that same issue with a lot of men. There's a guy, you gushing on, you hear the girls gushing over him, and you get him after he's been around the block once or twice, and it ain't what you thought it was gonna be. It's terrible. It was short. And it's just that dream is broken, and you move on, and you want to run, but where do you go? You can't run from yourself. You stuck with that memory, and trust me, I've had at least one sexual encounter that I'll talk about that was so bad that I literally delete the episode from my mind. It was that bad after faking orgasm bad. So it happens. Male, female, you, like I said, that dream, when you finally get to it, and it's not what you fabricated to be, you're crushed. You are crushed.
Let me read these comments. Got a couple coming in. Rob said the dude that wanted her didn't qualify, and she had kids by another dude. Now the dude qualifies to be a cleanup man for easy access. This is true. This is true. You didn't qualify first. You wasn't that dude. You wasn't that dude. You wasn't the fly dude. You wasn't the popular dude. So you were straight up nerd, geek, or whatever the case is, or family might have been severely poverty stricken that you didn't have it. But then you bust your tail, and now all of a sudden you got it. Now you look different, and people notice, like, oh, remember he used to be like, oh my God, you see him, he's so fine now, he's so handsome. Oh my, it's a different look as you get older, but you're still thinking about, again, like I said, chasing that silver bullet, and then now you're left to be that cleanup man. And sometimes cleaning up, excuse my language, sometimes when you got to clean up a lot of shit ain't cool. And sometimes that's the situation. Marcia said, do some guys look at women differently who have children by multiple men? That's a good question. I'm gonna let her address that. Then I want to read Ronell's comment. She said, women have lowered their standards in several areas. Like, some things to me are for long-term relationships. Nowadays, folks want everything, even after 2 dates. The fuck? Yeah, it's a lot they asking for you, even after 2 dates. So, what's your take on some of these comments, Herb?
I'm going to address the Marcia comment first, and it's an excellent question, and a lot of women probably want to know why. It's simple. Men look, the one thing that any woman ever born has that no other woman, quote unquote, has, is her ability to give sex. That's supposed to be the one thing above all else that you can hold and leverage for whatever it is that you want. You want a man that's earning well, you leverage your sex, your beauty, your youthfulness, your ability to provide him heirs. I know it sounds biblical. I know it sounds cliched. I know it sounds old, but that's how a lot of old style men are still moving. I know you may not hear about them, and chances are you'll never hear about them. But once men see that, it's like buying a car that has been in multiple accidents only to be repaired. This is why they talk about, I'm going to talk about a term that people probably never heard. It's called the Carfax. And the Carfax is simply this: who has she slept with that we know about? Brothers going to put them feelers out there. They're going to start talking to their friends. They're going to start talking to these other people. It's like, literally, it's almost like private investigators doing their work. And they find out you've been with too many fellas, you done. Especially if you got multiple kids by multiple men. Yeah, this is Scarlet Letter I talked about last week, with the NDA. Once that stomach starts to, once that abdomen starts to get extended, you marked. You marked. This is why, I'll go back and say what I said earlier. This is why they tell women, marry before you carry, because you carry that burden. And for better or for worse, we can try and blame men, and those particular men, they hold all of the responsibility and accountability of getting those women pregnant. I'll say it again. Those particular men, because it's not a one-to-one thing, those particular men are responsible and accountable for getting those women pregnant. This is why I always talk about, and I specifically address this to men. If you're out here having sex and you're not in a relationship, it's consensual. Protect that woman's reputation like you would your money. And we know we have some guys out here that are flagrant with their money. They don't care. But I'm speaking specifically to the guys who care about what they're doing with their money. They're invested. So those type of guys, you want to stay away from. And it's hard for a lot of women to discern, which is why you want to have some good men in your corner. You may have to go ask them, look, is this dude worth it? Is he reputable? Even if you reach the height of sexuality that you're in, you just want to get that itch scratch. Come on, boy. You're messing up the broadcast, man. Even if you want to get that itch scratch, go find somebody that's worthy of you. You know, it's like Radiant says, don't lower your standards just because you fit a certain profile. Don't lower your standards just because, Lucky, get down. Don't lower your standards just because you fall into a category that society says is, you know, she damaged goods. You might be, according to what other people think, but you have to understand that you still possess the ability to reclaim your dignity. And you go get some men that say, oh, you a reformed hoe now? Tell them yes. Look them in the eye and say, yes, you know what? When I was young, I was out here running around without discipline. Don't blame anybody. Say, I was out here running around without discipline. I got myself in a couple bad situations with a couple bad men. I'm paying the price for those decisions. I'm taking a different path. I'm sorry. If you yeah, I'm being honest, I'm putting it out there. So if you think that I'm just for recreation, you know, there's some other chicks down the street. Go talk to them. But as far as me and you, ain't nothing going on. Not even a rent.
And it reminded me, and I think I shared this TikTok video in the counselor's corner where it was this. I'm assuming she probably was in her 50s something, and she pretty much said she was a reform whore. And she was like, listen, for you guys to, you know, go out there and deal with these younger women, you still may not get what you want. They lack experience. So they was like, the difference is if you're a reform whore, at least don't let everybody know all the people that you've been with. And even in that case, as you mature, you're selective, and you don't, you know, you might have had those notches in your belt before when you were younger, but now as you got older, uh, you're more selective, but you're still experienced sexually. So once if you get that opportunity, you got the goods for those dudes that they're going to be satisfied because you have experience, but people don't know about your experiences.
Yeah.
And see, that's the difference, because some people they like to flaunt their experiences and all that. Even again in this day and age on social media, always got to be posted up or posted up with different news. Like, damn, you was just with this person or that person. Like, yo, moving silence. Everybody doesn't need to see that, but people still want to feel relevant, so they feel like that's why they gotta post stuff. Because if you're making posts or you're posting pictures and it's just you by yourself, then people are gonna think, oh, they so lonely. They don't never post up with no guy, or it's not about if you feed into that crap, whatever it is, you really got a childish state of mind. If you
And
buy into that.
you know what the funny thing about that is? I get that a lot on this particular platform. And you know what I say? Absolutely nothing. And I think a lot of people have to get comfortable, like you said, they have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that uncomfortableness is not giving a damn what other people think about you. I know for women that's a little more difficult because social acceptance is the currency that you operate in by default. Women, as a rule, don't want to be quote unquote alone. And when I say that, I mean they don't want to have anybody that they can't hang out with. For men, it's not quite the same because we can move through certain situations a little bit more effortlessly and not have it um, viewed as the same. There's no mark against a man who's 50 that doesn't have kids, never been married. At least there used to be. That's kind of slowly shifted, but there's a lot of undercurrents about that. Conversely, though, a woman who's reached the age of 50, she's never been married. She may have had one child out of wedlock. She may not be as attractive as she once was. People are going to say, okay, what's wrong with her? She can't find a man that will commit to her. It's never will can she find a man that she can commit to. People always ask, she can't find a man that will commit to her. So people start asking about, is she damaged goods? Does she have a mental deficiency? What's wrong? And it could be simple as something, you know what? She's not putting herself out there. You don't see her on social media. You don't see her on the number of platforms. What is it? TikTok, Snapchat, Facebook, obviously, YouTube. There's a couple other ones that Instagram is the other one. You don't see them on there. So the digital footprint is limited. So you can't find any information about them. They're quiet with what they do. They move in silence. Those are the hidden gems as women start to get older that a lot of guys, and this is what I talked about before with what Radiant said, they're not trying to put in the work to convince her that they're worthy of a role in the hay. Even if she's amenable to that, they don't have the lock. I'm sorry, they don't have the pick for that lock. So now you have some of those men that'll try and soil the reputation, but the people that know about it say, "Yo, man, you got that chick pegged all wrong. She ain't like that." Well, how do you know? Did you better? Son, it ain't about having bettered her. I know her going back 15, 20 years. I never came at her like that. But I know some fellas that have, and she shot them down the same way you got shot down. This is why I've said, if you as a woman, you're between the ages of, let's say, 40 and 50, and you don't have a good male friend who you've known for at least a decade to 2 decades, you're in a bad situation because you don't have anybody who you can rely on that's going to give you unfettered information the way you need it. Sometimes women just need to be given a straight dope on something just so they can understand what it is that they're potentially going to deal with. When we were younger, we would tell girls, look, you don't want to mess with that dude. You got this chick pregnant.
Sound like I was hating, man. Herb, sound like I was hating.
No, you because you saw attractive women and you didn't want them to fall prey to what they didn't know, especially coming up in our era where the proliferation of single parenthood skyrocketed. So you would say to yourself, hey, look, shorty, nothing for nothing. I dig you. I like you. I think you're attractive. I know I ain't too tight, but that dude, he really ain't too tight. Oh, you just hating? Oh, you just mad because I won't give you enough? All right.
Yeah, but
you see him a year later, they got a bundle.
Do women receive that information from so-called friends? Is that particular friend, you say, man, his word is bond. Like everything he say come out and it manifests to be true. So if he tell me something, it's like gold. Do they take that information? I don't know too many that take that information and hold steadfast with it. because, like I said, in this, these generations where, oh, you just hating, or you always got something to say, or you so negative, but that could be the most positive person that you have in your life.
Mhm.
And they just, like you said, just give it to you real. This is what I know. This is
Mhm.
what I know of this individual. But and I care for you more than that person or any other person. So I just want to see you, don't want to see you jammed up. I don't know if they receive that information too well.
They it's let me say it like this. It's not that they don't receive it well, they don't receive it in the manner that it's being delivered. In other words, they don't receive it in a manner that helps them filter out the bullshit. So when that information is given to them, and guys are no different. We're just given different avenues of escape. But when a woman is given that information because she's invested in a different way, she takes it under advisement, but she's gonna do what she wants to. And that's the larger problem that women have to deal with, is that they're driven by their feelings first and their logic second. The prospect of getting with somebody that, in the same way, like I talked about the shadow dream, the same way that a lot of young men view women, women have that same desire. Oh, he's my knight in shining armor. I see how he handles this. I've heard how he did this, but you never heard about all the other stuff he didn't do. Why? You keep that stuff hidden. Whether he's got an NDA signed with somebody, or they just not trying to out him. Because you have some women out here who are dealing with cats that ain't no good, but they won't out them. And I feel bad for those kind of women, because those are the kind of women that suffer from an indiscretion. I, I've seen it all the time. Female, matter of fact, let's take somebody like Sierra and Future. Now, from what I know of Sierra, and it's not a whole lot, she wasn't the type of person to parade herself around like that. But she caught a cat in Future who tickled her fantasy, and her fantasy got tickled. Now she say, okay, you know what? I got to correct my ways. I got to find something that's worthy of me. And I know there's been, because I was on that side too, there's been the chatter about, why would Russell Wilson wife up a chick like that? Because he saw something in her. Now, I'm not at liberty to say what he saw in it, because I don't know. I'm not Russell Wilson. But for him, and that's the only thing that matters, he saw that he can make an honest woman of her. Whether he has or he hasn't, it's not my business. I just know how it works. Because I've seen some women, and that was one thing I had to disabuse myself of when I was dating single mothers, is I saw a lot of them in my mother, because my mother was a perennial single mother. So I had to make sure that I broke that as the brothers call them, that Captain Save a Hole mentality here, so I wouldn't deal with a specific type of woman. So that's why I talk about now that I'm not dealing with women with minor children under their auspice. Some people will say, "Oh, you're prejudging her." No, I'm saving myself from myself. I've been down that road. I had my fair share of BS go down. I'm not I'm not dealing with it anymore. And people that have listened to this platform, I've chronicled the issue I had with an ex-girlfriend and a potential paternity issue. I've laid that out at length, at nauseum, so people will understand that those situations are out there. And the only way you can avoid those situations, guaranteed, is not to deal with a female who has certain proclivities and you may have gotten wind. If you get wind of a rumor about a female, go find out where the rumor came from. I'm not saying believe it. I'm not saying dismiss it outright. Just find out who started the rumor because everybody starts when you hear something. Somebody put that out there initially. I don't care if it's good, if it's bad. Somebody put it out there. Go find out the source. And when you find out the source, don't be afraid to ask. If you have a genuine interest in the female, whether it's just sexual or otherwise, ask. If she's forthcoming and she gives it to you straight, no matter what it is, respect the fact that she gave it to you straight. You may not have the interest in her, but respect her as a woman who was woman enough, accountable enough, and responsible to not further a lie. She gave it to you straight. That's all anybody should want from anybody is the truth. Whether an individual can handle that truth or not is a different story. All I want from anybody that I ever deal with is the truth. Give it to me how it is. Let me handle it. You don't have to sugarcoat it. You don't have to gift wrap it. Just give it to me. If I'm asking you questions because I want to know the truth. Now, we get a lot of people out there who can't handle the truth. They're not cut out for it. They're not mentally equipped. What do you mean you was sleeping with that dude? You was and the images run through guys' head because all the things that you did with her, you think she did with that guy. And men, that's when men lose it. They just like, you a slut, you a whore, you this, you that. They can't maintain decorum because now they've been broken down and they're at a vulnerable state emotionally now. So when we talk about guys displaying emotion, that's when it comes out because now they've been invested in this woman. Whether it's time, money, whatever the case it is, this woman has seen him at has raw essence in a way that very few people have seen him before. And now he's naked in front of the world. He's going to lash out. I'm not going to say it's going to be violent, but he's going to lash out. And depending on the kind of man he is, you may not hear from him ever again. He may have treated you well. Matter of fact, he may have been the one man that's actually treated you like the woman you always wanted to be treated like. And now that's gone because you simply had an indiscretion. You weren't able to be truthful or whatever the case is. He gone now. So now you're scrambling.
Yeah, once he gone, he's definitely gone. Especially if he's a man with options. And understand that some men can. There's a difference. I want y'all to know it, and I know it seems double standard, but some man can pick up if they want to a day or two later, because they have people waiting in the back burner to say, "Hey, I took an L right here," but they can have places they could be in a day or two time. Shit, some of them in an hour or less than that. So also understand that. But I do want to read Naomi's comment. She says, "A mother, I never wanted my kids to see a bunch of men running in and out of my house at all hours." Yeah, and that's never a good look. And then we talked about this before. All of a sudden now, one of your kids catches one of these men running in and out, and they ask you about it. Oh, that's Uncle such and such. Uh, those lies is not cool, or whatever the case is, because kids think long and hard, and they start putting pieces together. Like, okay, she said that was our uncle, but our real uncles are her actual brothers. We never seen them in the bed with her. So how is that? So some lies you trip over, and now you done dug yourself so deep, and you're left with, I don't question me about nothing. Don't ask me about nothing, instead of being honest to begin with. But you could avoid all that by, as Naomi said, not having men run in and out. Um, out your house. Marcia said, what qualities do some men look for beyond a woman's outer beauty that they find very attractive and would consider having a relationship with? There's a lot of different qualities. And for me, one of them is, and I said this before, the ability to have good laughter with someone and conversation. That's priceless.
Yeah.
When you could be with someone that you could just laugh and crack up and just enjoy and have good conversation. And it starts off that way and it ends that way. Hell, women that supportive or good listeners, because men have a lot of stuff that we want to unleash, but sometimes is not permitted because many women like to dominate conversations. So, and some guys we'll just shut down and go into our little cave and do our own thing and say, hey, and by that time, shit, problem solved. Problem solved. Got your little drink, got sports going on, and hey, now it's a new day and you keep moving forward, but yet and still not being able to get that off your chest. So it's tons of different qualities. Shit, being charming, just like I said, supportive, caring, just understanding. Like some of those things, you may not be the best looking one on the outside, but that person is solid on the inside. Their upbringing, like their family values, that their upbringing was from a solid family, and that's something big that people look at. Like, yeah, they got a nice tight knit family. Like people who may not have that, you'll notice. You'll notice by the way they behave on certain things. They could tend to be a little selfish with um certain things in their thought process. But when you have a tight knit family, you got different people coming at you from different angles. So you learn different perspectives and you learn to, all right, and it's not always about me because I'm getting so many different perspectives. And sooner or later, those different perspectives shape you and they become a part of you. So those are just a few things. Herb, you can give your thought process on that.
Ooh, boy. Wow. I want to address something that Naomi said first before I get into what Marcia said. Both Naomi makes an excellent statement, and like I said, Marcia, you're always asking excellent questions. So let me address something that Naomi said first. The only problem that women never think about with dealing with different men and saying, like David said, he's my uncle, he's your uncle, whatever the case is, cousin, is that if you have a family reunion, if you have a family that hosts family reunions and that individual isn't there, you've already told on yourself. Why? Because boys at a young age are naturally inquisitive. So are girls, but girls probably won't ask in the manner that boys will. Boys are going to be direct because they want to know who's around my mama. Because as boys, we take on that mantra of protection very early in life. So if that man is never at any family reunions, at any family functions, birthdays, funerals, Christmas, Thanksgiving, you're going to told on yourself.
And let me throw this in before Herb ends. And boys gonna give you good details too. You know who I'm talking about, ma. The one, well, they might not say these actual words, but I'm gonna throw it out there anyways. You know that one with that big ass nose, the one who used to come over and like, who are you talking about? You know who I'm talking about? He used to always wear the same sneakers or shoes or whatever the case is. They gonna peep stuff out that like, wow, I didn't think they paid attention. Now we think girls pay attention to little stuff like that, which they do, but boys, like Herb said, when it comes to their mothers, they're gonna see every little potential fault that unless that guy does something to the good outweighs the bad. If he
Yeah.
can't balance that out, he's a lame duck. He's a lame duck or whatever. So,
it's rabbit season.
so
But
that's what you got to think about.
back to what Marcia asked. There was an old analogy, or at least an older analogy, and I'll say it this way: if you a man and you give a woman a lot of grief or a little bit of grief, be prepared for a whole lot of shit. The same thing works for a man, except it works in reverse. And one of the things I heard, among other couple other things, was this: if a man gives you $100 and you don't have nobody has to answer this publicly, what are you going to do with it? You have no instructions. He just gives you $100. What are you going to do with it? You can go spend it on yourself. Are you going to go buy him something? Or are you going to go find a way to make more money and then bring that back? There's no right or wrong answer, but there is an answer that will endure that man to you. And I can't remember who I think he's a rapper. Um, yeah, went to jail, got incarcerated, and gave the female he was dealing with a huge sum of money. When he got out, she had like quadrupled that money to some insane amount. He married her on the spot. For me, can I take you places without having to worry about how you're going to behave? Can I introduce you to new concepts without you complaining? Can I sit at home and watch football on Sundays from September to February without having to hear you complain? Can I just pick up and go somewhere without having to explain to you where I'm going? Those are qualities that a lot of women don't even consider because they think it doesn't matter. I always tell people even though my room has looked like this since I moved in. I got the couch stand up that's been stand up. The cats use it as a playground now, so I just leave it up there. You see Lucky running around here. If you come over here, are you gonna complain about the way this place looks? Because right now it's messy. I got to clean my house. It's messy. It's beyond my expectations. But are you gonna complain about it? Or are you just gonna cop a squat and sit down and enjoy? I guarantee you. And we as men, we know intrinsically what's acceptable for the particular female we're dealing with, for the particular circumstances, particular situation, and what isn't. So we know if we're dealing with a female that's an upper class female, you better have every T dotted and I crossed. Yes, I said T dotted and I crossed. You know why? Because those aren't the things that we traditionally look for. I had a female years ago, came over to my apartment, and she said something to me that I had never ever considered. Never considered. She's like, your cabinets are dirty. I said, what? She said, your cabinets are dirty. You drop stuff and you don't clean up. I was like, oh, I got you. Because she was that type of female. So you know what I do every so often in my kitchen? I clean my cabinet doors. Not the ones up top, but the ones at the bottom. Because every so often, if I'm cutting something, liquids, it falls down there and it looks unsightly. Those are the things that a lot of men, when it comes to women, they pay attention to. So it's not always because let's look at, matter of fact, let's take Jeff Bezos' wife, his former wife. She wasn't going to win any beauty contest, but she got him young. And more often than not, she got him because of what she wasn't. See, a lot of women make the mistake of thinking because they're outwardly very attractive, aesthetically appealing, they have the body, they have the looks, they have the charisma. But then they wonder why they always a pass around. because that's all your personality qualifies you for. You got to troll, Dave.
I see it. Losers.
And that's all you qualify for. So it's not that guys don't respect you. They just don't want to deal with you beyond an orgasm. That's the thing that women have to understand earlier in life. Is that you can be a woman that's 50 years of age or older, and you can still have some value to a man. But the question is, did you spend your earlier years developing yourself? Did you spend your earlier years, like I said, using all those tools in your toolbox, making yourself an indispensable woman? Because you might have some male friends who don't have that interest in you, but that guy might have some friends that are looking for somebody that's just like you. We hear it all the time. Oh, I was at a function and my man introduced me to so and so, and we hit it off. Wow, it's like fireworks. And we've been inseparable ever since. But what a lot of women have to understand is cultivate yourself. Because let's look at it like this. Most people, if presented with a diamond that came out of the ground, they wouldn't know what it was. Oh, it was just a clump of glass. Until that diamond is refined and cut and it reaches its full brilliance, that's because it's underwent the process. This is what a lot of men spend time doing when they develop themselves. Even the guys that aren't, they don't have the 3 6s, 6 figures a year, 6 foot, 6 pack, all that nonsense. So they have to develop themselves so they can attract the best quality female, or they can attract the best quality females. Because women are naturally in the catbird seat, they don't develop that until later. It's said that a woman don't start thinking critically until she's no longer sexually desired. And there's a lot of truth to that, especially the more attractive ones that may have had a kid. She might be divorced. She's never had to focus on being anything other than attractive. She's never had to focus on anything other than being a trophy wife. Matter of fact, take Michelle Obama. I might not be a fan of the politics, but that woman is smart. She's brilliant. She thinks critically. And when she ascended to the position of first lady, I was just watching a clip on, oddly enough, TikTok about all the things she had to think about on the fly that her husband didn't have to do. And she made it work. She made it. Talk about hairstyles. She's talking about how sometimes she wore weaves, she wore extensions, she wore natural hair, she did this, she did this. And I was impressed. And rarely would I use the word impressed, but I was impressed by the fact that she actually took all this in and realized that the position she was playing wasn't for her. It was for her husband. Sometimes, in order to qualify for a position on a team, you have to show that not only are you willing to play the position, but that you are capable of playing the position. We hear it all the time, David, we're on sports. Oh, he's an excellent role player. Can you be a role player for that man? If he needs something done and he asks you to do it, are you going to do it begrudgingly? Or are you going to say, what else do you need done after that? That's an enduring quality. I know I may not marry that female, but if she needs something and she calls me, I'm there. I'm not asking any questions because she's already proven the type of woman that she is. And I know, contrary to popular belief, people think men and women can't be plutonic friends. Not every female that I meet that I want to sleep with. I just don't.
So that's going to lead us to go into this other conversation. But I wanted to add something to that piece. Y'all know women. Y'all know men are big kids at heart. Big kids at heart by some of the things that we enjoy. Sports and all that. It's a kid's game. It started off as a kid game, whatever. Then you end up, professionally get paid. But you can see the way that athletes carry on. They're like big kids.
Mhm.
And sometimes you need a woman to bring the kid out in you, that playfulness, the joy, living life. And that's why I said the laughter, because a lot of men have a lot on their plate, a lot of stress. And sometimes if you have someone like that shit lightens the load. That shit balance off everything. And understand everything ain't always got to be about barking this and that or going like sometimes you got to bring out the kid in that man, and you got to find what makes him tick. And it could be something that's challenging him. Nobody might whoop your ass or whatever. Hey, let's go bowling. Let's do this. I could do this. I bet you I could beat you in this. And I'm like, what? And little things like that may get him going. You got the competitive fire, but also you got the joyfulness as a kid. So you have to think about that. Men are big kids at heart.
Mhm.
So you have to have the ability to bring that out in him, because sometimes you want to fall back into a different level from your regular 8 hour, 10 hour workday, and you just want to let loose, as they say. Women want to let their hair down. Men just want to. I just want to be a kid. That's why you still have
Take that
guys
time.
that enjoys video games and different things like that, or they like getting with the fellas or whatever, and going bowling and playing cards and all that, because they want to be like big kids, talk shit to each other and just have fun. So those are some of the things when you start thinking about, well, what can I do? What should I get him? What should I do? Just think about that. And our big kids at heart.
Mhm.
So understand that. Now, for this second segment, uh, we talked about, do men really care about women's accomplishments and social status, or is it based on women's sexual status? So it's a lot of talk that goes around, like men say we don't care how much women make, we don't care, you summa cum laude this, you got this at your job, this and that. They don't care. They may not care, especially if there's someone who's holding their end of the bargain, and they're doing all right. They're not trying to we're not trying to jockey for position to see who and poking chests out to see who's doing better or who's more accomplished. And sometimes you'll see a situation and you'll say, how is he doing this? Oh, he's a whole engineer. He does this and that. Why is he with her? Whatever. She doesn't even know. I ain't never really known her to work or do anything. Last job I had, because obviously it's the maybe she's bringing the kid out of him, or it's other things that she's doing that keeps. Women say that she looks so homely. She don't never, all, all types of stuff. And that's the question you got to ask. You got to think about, what is it that men care about. And a lot of the talk is saying they don't care about the social status or whatever the case is. Now, for me, I want a woman that's going to work. I want her that's going to achieve and try to accomplish goals and have stuff. Because to me, I think when you start just working a regular job, punching in and punching out, and you don't have no other goals or desires, sooner or later, to me, you start you become complacent and mentally dead. Like this the same
Yeah.
routine. But if you're someone that's always inspiring, and it don't have to be something with a job. Job. It may be something that you say, I want to accomplish, and like, well, this is something out, but this is what I want to do. For example, I want to write a book. I want to do this or that, or I want to start this program. And to watch the stuff in action, if you care about a person, you're gonna be a part of that whole journey, and you're gonna want to know step by step, like, oh, so what happened? Oh, I know you had a meeting earlier. So what happened with that? You start getting excited, or if they decide to go to school and they take a test, what happened on the test? Uh, did you pass, or how was class? Different things like that. So it's not always been like, okay, I want the top of the line woman. It may just be, we kind of talked about the sexual status, and we're gonna go a little deeper. Yeah, ready. We're gonna go deeper on the sexual status. But before we touch on that, Herb, what's your initial thought process on that statement about the social status or women's accomplishments?
That's that's an interesting question because what I'm finding out is it varies by class. So you have a man, let's say you have a man who's, as BGS and Kevin Samuels like to call him, he's a masters of the universe. He's a Barack Obama. He's going to more than likely want a woman who understands his drive and she can offset it with her own sense of, well, I can do some things too. I may not he may not want you to do them to the level that he's doing, but he wants you to be busy enough to where you're not sitting home, as like David said, you become complacent and you become disenchanted. And because he's busy and you're not busy, you're thinking he's up to something because he's always gone. Or you don't have any hobbies. So now you sit around with your other single friends and y'all talk about this. Y'all talk about love and hip hop. Y'all talk about politics. Y'all talk about finances. Shout out to Star. Y'all talk about anything that's relevant. So now you've already and this is what I want people to understand about where I'm going with this, is you start to become mentally stupid. You have no critical thoughts going on. You don't talk about anything of relevance, of significance. It's the old adage. Wise men talk about concepts, I think it is. Average men talk about people. And unintelligent people talk about whatever it was. I can't remember how it goes exactly. But those things. Now, if you got a man who's a working class man, can you match his energy? Can you inspire him to get to that next level? And this is the BGS Octane series. You always talk about what kind of, are you an 87 octane? You're a 92 climber? Or you're 100 octane? What can you do or what are you doing that either inspires that man to be greater, like you say, Dave, greater, equal, or less than? What are you doing that inspires that man? What are you doing that stops that man? Or are you just there for the ride? Me personally, I want a woman that has her own life, but that we can create time for each other. Because I don't want to be up underneath you 24/7, even if we marry. I do want you to have your personal life. I do want you to have some things that you aspire to do, whether it's just gardening, growing plants. You might crochet. You might do whatever it is. But do you have it? Are you capable of doing it? Or you just going home, go to work, go home, go to work. You don't want to travel anywhere, even if it's without me, because I'm cool with that. I don't think that every woman that has a a a girls' night out or a weekend trip is up to no good. I just I'm not wired to care like that because if you're doing something like that, eventually come out in the wash. It always does. And I'm not gonna trip. I'm just gonna say, okay, you know what? That's a poor reflection upon her, not me. She made the decision. I'm just a recipient of the decision. So yeah, what are you doing? What makes me want to keep you around? What makes me want to be with you? What makes me want to claim you? What makes me want to take you somewhere? What makes me want to do anything for you? And I think, and I said this before, it's not until women start to get a little older that they start to realize that the intangibles they can develop, those are the winning things. It ain't the beauty. Yeah, the nice cup is gonna get him to probably want to drink from it. The nice dairy is probably gonna want him to get rub on it. But at the end of the day, when that's done, what else do you have to offer?
Let me read this comment from Candace Owens. She said, I get it. Once a man made up his mind, you can't change or convince them otherwise. But a question I ask myself, and maybe I missed this conversation, I came in late, but why do some men go through great lengths just to smash? Do some men communicate that to a partner? I can handle the honesty. Do they really go through great lengths to smash? Because some people are smashable from off the muscle,
Yeah.
and you already know that. Like to go through great lengths. I don't know what is great lengths. You mean whining and dining, spending money, or doing whatever? Because I think the ones that they may smash it, they may not have to. They may not have to do that, or it could be a situation where they have a some type of agreement. So I would like to know what is going through great lengths means, as far as with some guys. But to go back to this topic about social status and sexual status, and I kind of brought up some points before, and we kind of there's some overlap in this topic when we talked about sexual partners or the friends you hang out with. Also, sometimes that may be it. Guys just want to know that. Like, I want to make sure that this woman is more wholesome than anything that I'm trying to woo or have. And I don't care about her social status or that she makes 100,000. I rather have someone that's more wholesome who doesn't have tons of male friends. And I know her talked about, having at least one friend, but a lot of the popularity that goes on around now is, well, I don't have female friends. I have a bunch of guy friends. I don't know too many men want their woman hanging around with 6, 7 guys or whatever the case is, because if it's 5, 6 guys, 4 or 5 of them, they want to,
Yeah.
they want to plow you. You may have one or something that say, she's cool enough, but I don't know too many guys that just hang around fine ass women just to be just to be hanging out with them.
Unless you got some friends that he might have that you can give him the angle on, yeah.
Yeah.
Generally doesn't happen like that. And let me interrupt you here for a moment.
Go ahead.
If you're going to have male friends as a female, the one thing that he needs to be is respectful of the decisions that you make if you're going to date a guy. In other words, if he knows that you have started dating somebody, whether it's seriously or not, he needs to sit his ass down and play the role. In other words, if you guys used to text often, and I'm speaking from what I do, if you guys used to text daily, he's, hey, how are you? You need something? That's got to stop. Red light, stop. Because that's no longer his business. I'm saying it again. That's no longer his business. And you should not involve him in things that are not his business because now you're compromising him. And the reason why I say you're compromising him is because he's your friend. He might be your confidant. So don't ask him what he should do about your relationship. It's your relationship. You are in it with the other individual. So you need to talk to that individual about what it is that's going on. The only advice that man should be offering you is what did the other individual say? And if your answer is, I don't know, I didn't bring it up to him, then he should say, look, I'm not going to give you any kind of advice because I don't want to upset the balance in your relationship, but I think this is something you need to discuss with him. Let me know what he says, and then I might have some input into how you might want to move. Because, and this is something we're going to bring up because I've been, like I said, I've been all over the place with doing this in terms of gathering, always looking to gather content for the show. You know, what does protection look like? And I know this is something that Officer Faulkner talked about on his platform, and I'm gonna pop over there and see what he's got going on, probably after the show or whatever the case is. What does protection look like? I know we often talk about protection from the male perspective being provided to the female, but what does that look like for men coming from women? And that's something we'll get into further. But if that man values you as an individual, as a friend, he's going to let you make your own decisions. That way he doesn't have to worry about anything. Because the last thing a friend should want for his or her friends is to see them suffer unnecessarily. Yes, I said unnecessarily. Because sometimes there are some decisions that we make that's going to cost us some angst and some grief. And that's okay. That's part of the growing process.
This may get a little people ruffle the feathers, but when you get a certain age, is that friend thing like a aging dinosaur or whatever? Like how many people that's in their late 30s, 40s, or 50s communicate with their friend of the opposite sex on a regular basis when they got a full slated day themselves, work, home life, maybe children, and all of that stuff. Like, how many people do that? If they communicate on a regular basis every day, oh, something just don't seem right about that. Something. I mean, you can fly somebody a message on social media; it travels fast and all that stuff. But the phone calls and all this stuff, like how many people communicate with someone they call a friend on a regular basis once you get older and you have, like I said, a full plate of stuff going on. Uh, it's just something I wanted to throw out there.
And you know that's very true. Even with my homeboys that I used to run with back in the day, I may talk to them once every 2 or 3 months. They got kids, they got a job. I got my one man just got married last year. I didn't have an opportunity to attend his wedding, which kind of was fucked up for me because of all the places we used to go, all the things we used to go to college together. But it happens, life happens. And it's like David said, are you really um not doing anything that you have the opportunity and the time, to sit around contacting somebody like that? I don't. And I have a lot of female acquaintances, that we used to do our thing, but we're cool. we could talk about anything and everything under the sun. But if we do, that might be once every 6 months. Like I've had conversations with some female friends of mine that I used to be involved with that have lasted an hour and a half. And they were excellent conversations. But I'm not gonna do that every night. I don't have the time. And neither do they. This is why we talked about what Marcia talked about when she asked a question, what do men look for? Can I sit down and have that kind of conversation with you? Or am I gonna have to carry the conversation? Are you interested enough? Does your life revolve around sexual exploits or what you saw on social media in terms of this female doing this with this guy? That's what just it doesn't interest me. And I find it now more so on Facebook that is being advertised left and right. Gummy worms from ED functions, shall we say. I'm just like, okay, I know I'm getting older. I know I'm a little curmudgeon, but some of the stuff is just like, it's overkill. I just want to sit back and just relax.
And the one thing I realize as you get old, time is really short. So before, as you get young, when you're younger, it seemed like, oh, a whole day can last forever. You can say you bored. And I posted this before. If you 40 some years old and you ever, excuse my language, fucking say you bored, you have to look at yourself. You have to look at yourself. You have to question yourself and your makeup. Bored, I can't say that I'm ever bored. You might get restless. I don't want to do that. And then you might engage in something else. But you always have something on your plate that you could be doing. You might not want to do it at that time, but to sit around, ain't nothing to do, it's bored. Where's that tonight? And you 40 something? That's not a good look. But I want to honor what Candace said because she wrote a lot. She said, "What I experienced, a man that found me attractive said things like he loved me, he wants me to meet his family. When I accepted the invitation to his house and got it in, he told me he didn't want a relationship. I asked him, then why didn't you say that in the first place? I am single and I like to smash too. A relationship would be nice, but I'm not the one chasing. I can handle honesty from a man because most of my friends are males, and I understand that some people are just not real." And you said a key thing. Most of your
The
friends
end of
are
that,
males.
yeah, the end of that is not relationship types. It cuts off.
Okay. So are these the ones that are these male friends? Are these the ones that's smashing? Or because remember, I had said like a lot of them, you say, females are, I got mostly male friends, but a lot of them want to sleep with you. A lot of them want to sleep with you.
I will sum it up in one word: rejection. He's afraid that you are going to say no. And I brought it to the platform, and Davis agreed in the fact that and this man will forever be around in dating circles. Alan Roger Curry in Mode One. You have some guys that are not equipped to be that kind of guy, and it's unfortunate because women bear the brunt of a man's either inability or unwillingness to be straightforward and honest. They're in that particular manner. I want to make sure I say this correctly because I don't want people to take this the incorrect way. In that particular manner, he's a coward because he's afraid of the outcome. Let's look at it like this: before the advent of social media and the way society is now, in order for a man to meet women, he had to go out to the club. He had to put it on the line. He had to what they call cold approach, which means you don't know a female, nothing about her. You just walk up to her and you shoot your shot. You might approach 10, you might approach 10 females and only get 2 numbers. You may have told the female, hey, look, you look good. I want you to have my kids. I want you to do this. Similar to what you were told, Candace. And all he wanted was a roll in the hay. But he may not have been attractive enough to get that opportunity. He may not have been well spoken enough to get that opportunity. He may not have had the money to get that opportunity. So now his weapon becomes guile. His method of operation is the long game. And this is what you were talking about with your previous comment. So you have guys that still operate like that. You know, they like the proverbial saying goes, they wolf in sheep's clothing. Me, I tell people, I am a sheep in wolf clothing. Me, if I just want to dip, I'm like, hey, look, shorty, I got enough for you, but just the desire to be between you. But I'm that kind of guy. You have some guys that aren't. I have absolutely no problem with shorty. You fine. I just want to. Hey, I just want to. I just hung a chandelier in my room. I want to see how much weight it supports. You game?
So let me recant this. She said, I grew up with most of them, so I don't know. Maybe, but they never approached me. But they do share their side of the story with me to get a female perspective. So, like Herb said, most of them, the rejection, like you don't want to show your hand unless you got some a solid inclination that, okay, it's real. She wants to get down, but I'm not going to jeopardize our so-called friendship by coming at her, and then she come like, okay, you being creepy, we grew up together, this and that, how could you even? So they're not, because understand this too, a lot of guys don't have game or don't have conversation. Conversation is a lost art. So they're not going to just put their show their hand unless you give them something solid to say, okay, she's really trying to make something happen. You know, you might have to throw out hands. Well, come by. What you doing? Well, I don't got the kids tonight. They're at their grandparents' house, and I ain't doing nothing. Maybe you can come over. Grab something to drink, and we just say, I'm gonna make dinner or something. We just chill. Now you think like, oh shit, she never said nothing like this before, so okay, now I got to switch gears.
Yeah.
But if you're not giving them nothing like that, they, excuse my language, they stupid asses will continue moving your furniture, changing your tires, or doing whatever, hanging along until you say something. That's for people who don't have nothing on their mind. A guy with something on their mind, I ain't about to do that shit. You my homegirl now, man. Get the fuck out of here. I ain't doing that. I got stuff to do.
Yeah.
And they'll respect that.
Yeah, it's hard for it's I'm not gonna say it's any harder for one gender to operate like that than it is for the other gender. But the thing that most women anyway, they will always have going is if they're desired, it becomes a little easier. Because like I said early in the broadcast, you're in the catbird seat. But you have to be wise enough to understand that the man you deal with might be letting you take the lead position. Because while you taking the lead position, he might be setting up something else on the side. And this is where a lot of women get blindsided. They think, oh, he ain't that dude. He ain't that good looking. He ain't that charming. He doesn't have a whole lot of money. He drives an older car. Ain't nobody checking for him. Next thing you know, you got two women talking about, let's go set this dude up. Let's out him. We can call him on the three-way. I can text him, you can do this. Oh, damn, if he wasn't that guy, he wouldn't have the three of y'all plotting and scheming. so so understand that, yes, you have a position as a woman that you always occupy, but just because you occupy that position don't mean you running the show. Because there's a lot of guys that will happily let you do all that. They be like, well, shoot, man, she doing all this, she doing all that. Yo, hands off. I'm golden. I'm gonna let her do this. I'm gonna let her do this. And I'm gonna just come through, dine and dash, smash and grab, and I'm out.
Bump and grind, hump and dump.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's and I think a lot of this excuse me, a lot of this stems from the fact that relationships in terms of dating are no longer what they were. And what I mean by that is this: no longer, and that was a comment that was mentioned earlier, and I think that was by
Ronell, Radiant Ronell.
yeah, Radiant, where she said that people want everything in 2 days. Yeah, a lot of people do. We live in a microwave society where everything is immediate. Me, like I said, maybe it's my age. I'm at the point now where hell, I I'd rather dance a waltz. But that's because when I deal with a woman, I want to be invested. Now that doesn't mean that I don't want to, dance horizontally with her. That's gonna happen if it's supposed to happen.
So
But I'm not pressed for
you
it.
ain't trying to do the park height strut.
Yeah, I'm not pressed. I'm not pressed for it. Honestly, it's and that's the thing with having reached the other side of 40. I think, at least for me, you know, when I got out of college, shall we say, which was about the age of 24, 25, I washed out. Between the ages of 25 and 30, I was at my sexual peak in terms of just the number of women I was with. But when I had that issue at 30 and I had to recalibrate and dial back, it was an epiphany. It was just like, okay, you know what? I do not have to be sexually involved with the woman to enjoy her company. I do not have to be sexually involved with the woman to appreciate what she looks like. Hell, I'm at that point in my life where, you know what? And I've said this before on this platform. I'm looking for a woman that I can take to a Broadway play. We ain't gotta have sex. I just want to have a good time. So if I can find a woman that fits that, absolutely. Come on, let's go. Where we going? I'm going. I got a couple of tickets to Pantages in Toronto. We might be going. I don't know what's playing up there now. I know they have their season. I know years ago when I was in high school, they had I think it was Phantom of the Opera. I believe it was. I'm not sure. Either Phantom of the Opera or Cat on the Hot Tin Roof. Or I'm sorry, not Cat on the Hot Tin Roof. Fiddler on the Roof. Now I was not necessarily into musicals. I've always liked the theater, mainly because I wanted to do some acting, and I got the opportunity with a classmate who has since moved on. She gave me the opportunity in a play, and I enjoyed it every moment of it. Rehearsals were tough; they were absolutely tough. But when we actually got up there in front of a live audience, it was probably one of the most um, uh, liberating feelings that I have ever really had, because all that work, all that preparation, all that time you spent, you actually get to unleash it. And it's like a caged animal. You get to unleash it on the world. And it reminds me when I ran track. And I'm sure you do with basketball, the same thing. You get to get out there and show what you got. You get to get out there and show, hey, look, I'm built for this. I can do this.
So one of the things when you was talking about the timeline, it made me think about. I just pulled up this post from the guru, the financial guru Dave Ramsey,
Mhm.
and he broke it down like in decades. He said in your 20s it's all about a period of learning, and I agree. 20s you're still learning,
Mhm.
20 through 29. And he said 30s is a period of editing or making changes from mistakes you made in the 20s.
Yeah.
So now you're like, okay, I did this. Now I'm about to change it up, even in relationships, even on jobs and stuff like that. In your 40s, it's a period of mastering your craft.
Mhm.
Now you're starting to take mastery of what you're doing. Like, okay, I'm one of the experts around here at the job. And then he said, in your 50s, you are harvesting, reaping the benefits of all the good decisions you have made in your life.
Yeah.
So in your 50s, you like, shit, you sitting back and you're kind of giving your experiences to the younger. Like, this is what I've been through. This is how you should handle it. And I think sort of kind of that's the way I am in my job as the department chair. You know, you got younger counselors underneath me and younger teachers. I'm just giving my feedback. And one of the things, one of my, and we're close to age, but I told him uh, about a month ago, I said, I don't, I don't chase, I don't chase kids uh, for mentoring. I don't chase kids and look for them to come see me. I said kids that want to see me, they come to me because they know I got the goods, so
Right.
they'll keep coming back. And he was like, "Wow, that's powerful." He said, "That's something I always spend my time trying to get kids, rope them in. No, I don't do that. Gee, there's too many kids out here. The ones
Yeah.
that's real, they're gonna come to you."
Right.
Because I know as me, when I think about myself as a kid, I kept coming back to those people that had influence over me, uh, which made me keep coming back. They'll keep like in they say in rehab, keep coming back to the rooms. When you got something good, you're gonna keep coming back. And those are the ones that's serious, they'll keep coming back. And everything you tell them, no matter what, if they're in the hallway and they're giving another teacher a hard time and you appear, suddenly that conversation change when you give them that look like, really? Or you say something like, really? They'll change it up because that means you have influence and control over them. Uh, Let me, because I know some of y'all get caught up on control, but control simply means structure. Like they'll fall in line with your structure, and they'll know, like, okay, I better pipe it down. I better pipe it down because somebody that has influence over me is seeing me getting out of character. So let me slow my roll. So I thought that was a nice little bit with Dave Ramsey about, and I think that's how life is as far as that.
And people understand something. There, someone having control, or I'll use this term, an impact into your behavior, should not be viewed as a bad thing. And this was something I talked about earlier. What does protection look like for a man coming from a woman? Imagine, if you will, a couple is out, they're enjoying themselves at a bar. A man approaches the woman. He says something to her. She says, "You know what? I'm not interested." He's vociferous to the point of putting his hand on her. Not necessarily in a malicious manner, but just in a way that he shouldn't. He might wrist, rubber arm, or whatever the case is, and her man standing right there. He's observing because he already knows she ain't going, so he don't need to insert himself. And then he looks over and he sees it's like, yo, bro, don't do that. It's a violation. And he says, what are you gonna do? And she turns to him before he says anything. She says, babe, I got this. Don't worry about it. We didn't see this. And I'm gonna bring this up. Will Smith at the Oscars. We didn't see Jada protect him from himself. So when we talk about protection, sometimes we need to be protected from the things that we might do because it might end up in a bad situation for us. So there's nothing wrong with somebody having the ability to exert some control over you. Sometimes it's beneficial. I have absolutely no problem with somebody pulling my coattail and saying, yo, don't do that. I've had it happen. I've had it happen in situations where I was about to explode. Somebody said, yo, Herb. No. And I listen. Sometimes it behooves us to have somebody who can control you. It's not a bad thing. Really, it isn't. And don't look at it as a bad thing.
Yeah. And that's the thing. People get caught up in semantics of words and they're like, control. You don't control me. Well, people have control over you. It's certain situations you're even at work. See, people pick and choose what they want to do. In relationships, they don't want to say somebody has total control over certain situations, but at the workplace, they ask, fidgety, worry, shook, whatever, because they know, okay, the big supervisor is going to be in today, whatever, and now you shook. You're controlled, but you can't be controlled outside of work. What? Because you don't get paid. All of this stuff runs parallel to each other. The people that have a even balance with home, out in the community, and work, they're usually fine. You just can't be the model person think you could be the model person at work, but then all in other avenues and areas you out of control. That mask is gonna peel off.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Something's it's gonna be a shift or imbalance of something. Something's gonna falter. You need to be even killed throughout, and that requires control.
Mm-hmm.
Controlled environment, controlled situation, and people need to understand that because a lot of times people they learn one meaning because you're lazy as hell. You don't want to read 3 or 4 other definitions of the word and say, oh, because by the way, I put up something about consistency. I said, man,
Yeah.
I said I'll never find another woman like consistency. Y'all idiots thought it was an actual woman I was talking about. I was talking about the word consistency. Like, so it was one of her riddles. And I'm like, these people are like, oh, so why are y'all not together now? I'm talking about the word consistency.
Yeah.
Like if I talk to somebody who named consistency, that shit would be annoying. Hey, consistency. So I named the word consistency as a female because if you have those characteristics as consistency, you're solid. That's a solid relationship. So yeah, I let the cat out of the bag. There's no one. So stop asking me what happened to this person, why y'all not together, because it was just a metaphor. It's critical thinking. Trying to make y'all think outside the box. Y'all failed though.
Because I saw that and I was just like,
because that's not even my style to put out there about a relationship.
But in all honesty, though, yeah, man, because I'm a very I'm a very even killed person. I have to be because I work with the public. And sometimes, somebody can say something that if you're not, it can push you in a certain direction. It's when I'm not at work that I know I could be prone to want to move somebody. And I've had some situations where, it was a quasi. Let me explain like this. When I was involved with the mentoring program, we were being displaced from the library, and I was speaking to um it wasn't one of the board of directors. It was somebody that wasn't as high up in terms of their status. And we're having a phone, and I'm on the phone with the founder of the program, and I got to the point where I was about to verbally assassinate the guy. And my man pulled my coat though. He said, "Herb, not now. No, don't do it." Because he read the tone in my voice, and I had to listen.
Herb, carry on with this conversation.
Yeah,
I gotta use the bathroom right quick. When you get
yeah.
older, gotta go when you gotta go.
so so he pulled my coattail, and I was like, okay, let me dial it back. And the thing we have to be cognizant of is this: we never know who someone else knows. We don't know what kind of leverage they can exert. So if you get in the habit of wanting to curse somebody out, or you want to quote unquote give them a piece of your mind, just understand that what you give to that individual might come back at you. And when it comes back at you, it might not be in the way that you can ever recover from it. So it's always, it should always be impressed upon us to be measured in our response. It's called the iron fist and the velvet glove. And it said that if you're hammered, then every problem you've every if you're hammered, then everything you see is a nail, meaning that you want to take force to it. And sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes you have to learn how to gild the lily. Sometimes you have to learn how to be diplomatic, even if it seems that diplomacy might not work. Because that individual is going to always say, okay, you know what? The last time I had a problem with this individual, they weren't mean, they weren't malicious, they didn't they didn't fly off the handle, they didn't make me feel bad. And this happens in restaurants. Case in point, let's say you regular at a particular dining facility. You go there and they mess up your reservation. Now you got a date plan. They mess up your reservation. So now you gotta wait a half an hour for them to get your reservation reinstated. How do you behave? Do you curse out the maitre d'? Do you throw tantrums? Or do you say, okay, you know what? I'm gonna take it in stride. There's been an error in the reservation. The individual arrives, you explain to them, hey, look, we got a half an hour to kill. Is it possible that I can get a spot at the bar where I can have a drink? My date is supposed to arrive. You will end up getting more in the long run. They'll say, you know what? Last time this guy was here, we botched this reservation. He's a regular. He never gives us any problems, or she never gives us any problems. Let's give them a seat at the terrace with a better view. You're walking, you said, but I didn't, this is not the seat that I wanted. Sir, we're rewarding you as a good customer. Last time we botched the reservation, here you go. Have this drink coupon. Have a 25% off your bill. Those are the type of things you get when you allow somebody else to control you or exert some impact and some influence in your life. You don't have to react in a nasty manner to get what you want. Sometimes it's just a matter of just being okay. You know what? Let me measure my response. I can do this, but do I need to? And what is it going to get me? And ultimately, it doesn't get you a whole lot to behave like that. That's why you don't.
Yeah, that's big on that being able to control your emotions and emotional intelligence. And I can remember this is years back when I was younger in college, and me and one of my we were like peer counselors for the summer program, and it was a lot of chaos with our the payroll and us getting paid. So we went to the office of payroll to like okay find out when we was getting paid because we had been working for a while. Like okay, and we didn't receive our checks. So they end up telling like the director of the program that I came in there and cussed them out, cussed them out. So, and I always talk about know your personnel.
Mm-hmm.
So the director got it like, oh, I don't know if David's the person for this. But she already had an agenda with me for whatever reason. But may she rest in peace. She passed. But she already had an agenda out for me. But the other two that vouched for me, they said, really? David cuss somebody out? He don't even talk. He barely even talk. So I highly doubt. But whoever this woman was in payroll had concocted the story that I had cussed her out about my paycheck. Now, granted, when I was walking out, me and my other colleague, we might have walked out like, damn, like, but I didn't cuss her out. I didn't say anything directly to her, but again, oh, yeah, I always talk about know your personnel. Luckily, people knew my personnel, and they said David ain't do that. This man don't even talk like that to cuss someone out. So everything was clear because the director, she had it was dead set in her mind that I had did that, but I had people to vouch for me, and that's important too to always build alliances for people to vouch for you to be able to say, nah, they ain't did that. I know them, and sometimes you're shocked or surprised, but by certain situations. But in most cases, once you, if you can speak to somebody and their character, and you got credibility, it's all good. Greg said, "You guys scared all the ladies away." Well, that's okay, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that, Greg, because you know what? Them same ones that scared away, they're probably balled up, and they'll probably be looking for a return in 2023 when they realize it ain't working. That was therapy in the counselor's corner. So this how it started. So sometimes you got to go back. Then everything just revolves around. So I'm okay with it. It's still good conversation, good flowing. So it doesn't matter. They'll be back,
Yeah,
or some new people will be back. It's the holiday season. They out there shopping, spending foolish money, but they'll be back,
yeah, yeah,
guaranteed.
yeah. Yeah. It don't stop. Learning, growing, and we you know uh the DLC in his album said we were born, so you die. You know, Obsidian, Mami Ali, he said nature abhors a vacuum. So where one falls off, another steps in, and eventually somebody will come and fill that role. Um,
Well,
He's
Naomi,
talking
come
about
on.
actual females that would appear live on camera with us. He's not necessarily talking about the
Yeah.
chat. So we appreciate you being here, though.
But you could always join the chat. We're always
Yeah,
looking for people to join the chat. It doesn't mean usually people got used to seeing regulars or whatever. We went through stages. We
yeah,
had they don't like to hear the Ratchet Five. and, then, and then we had, the Common Collective, but sometimes that got out of hand. But it's some underlying issues going on. I know it. I feel it. I ain't called anybody out. And when I get to that point of that Stephen A. Smith type of stuff and start calling people out, everybody will be tuned in because they'll be like, damn, you know what he said. He called your ass out on his platform. I haven't got to that point yet,
Yeah.
but it may be coming. It may be coming because it's some stuff in the making. It's some people whispering and saying little things, whatever. And I'm up 2023. I might let you light your asses on fire.
How they say it? There's receipts.
So it's out there,
but man, I mean, you know, people, but you know, that's the beautiful thing about freedom, especially when you use it and you exhibit it. Hey, we don't hold people hostage here. We don't demand that people show up. You know, we don't demand that people participate. You know, we understand. You know, it's your time. Paid. Yeah. Yeah,
now, it's your time. Paid, that's a different level.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean,
yeah, so
it is what it is.
It was I mean, I don't want to belabor the point. It was a lot said, a lot to still talk about because the one thing I believe in, all these conversations build off of one another. And as much as people say or they deny it, I don't know where people get self-help from. Or to be honest, in the state and condition we're in now dealing with mental health, I don't know if people are getting self-help. I don't know if people are having these conversations like that because I think quiet is kept. Old school word. Social media kind of and the way we communicate kind of killed that. Before when you used to have gatherings and you would have conversations with people face to face. I don't know if that's happening, but every opportunity and people will say, "Oh, I go to church." Yeah. Again, we talked about that before. You're just in there listening. You have no feedback to give. You can't participate. You're just listening. That form is so archaic, so old that you just sit there and listen to one person talk and preach, and then you have somebody singing and all that, and then you walk around and walking. Ooh, the word was so good. How the hell is the word ever so good unless you could talk, communicate about the word and give your opinion about the word? It's just like mutes, robotic. I'm sorry if I'm challenging people like, oh, that's how I grew up and raised. That platform is not working for people. To be honest, it's not. And you have people that's been raised in the church, and they the ones killing up shit. People got to be able to communicate, express, talk, say something, get stuff off their chest, say how they really feel. And that's why even in what I do on a day-to-day basis, people are like, oh, I don't know how you can sit up there and listen to them. Because when they come in my office and they have mediations, they just all over the place. So sometimes I'm typing, doing other stuff, and then I'll look up, but I know they need that. They got to get it off their chest. So even if they swearing or whatever the case, if they get too bad, like, all right, now y'all doing too much, but I let them get that off their chest. People can't get stuff off their chest. At work, you're humble. Only can say so much. You go to church on Sundays, you're humbled. You can't say too much. Sometimes you live in households, you can't say too much. Got a lot of shit inside. No wonder why mental health is jacked up.
Yeah.
People don't have no outlets to say what they want to say.
And I think that's what, and I think just what you just said, and I'll read the comment that Marcia said. She said, personally, I felt there was always clashes of personalities along with folks talking over one another, which made it feel like mad chaos, and it took away from the topic. Sometimes less is more. And this is what you saw. You saw people, and whether they say it or not, we say it or not, or it even isn't even spoken. You saw people with things that they wanted to get off of their chest. So, case in point, when I assembled the panel, and we talk about why men won't date single mothers, that for 2 months, I kid you not, was a sore topic among the women that were on the panel that we didn't allow on that night, because that was one of the agreements that we had with the other panel members. For 2 months, I kid you not, they would not let that go. That was a sore spot of contention for them, because they thought we were trying to make them feel less than. And what we were trying to do is a part of what we did tonight, which was give the perspective on why that is. People have to understand that just because you make a decision, a unilateral decision, doesn't mean everyone has to agree with it. It doesn't mean that they have to respect it. Like I said, the one thing that people need to do is respect the individual, regardless of the decision that individual has made. And far too often, people want people to accept them along with the decision they made. Hey, look, I don't have to accept that you made that decision. I have to accept that you made a decision, but not that decision. Simply put, because I don't have to. I don't have to be around you. I'm free to go and come and go and do as I choose. And if that means I no longer want to deal with you in any capacity, I don't have to.
Greg said a lot. He said, I want to compliment you as I watch. I'm seeing a lot of cultural differences that I would love to explore sometime, but it might add another level of controversy. That's what we like. We want the smoke. Come on the panel. I don't know if we ever had a white male on the panel. I don't know if we ever had white male show his face on the panel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Greg also says self-help seems like a bad concept in that if someone knew how to help themselves, they would not be having the problem. Self-help. Well, I think with self-help, sometimes when you're helping yourself, it doesn't always come from yourself. That self-help, you get help from others. And I think that's the key thing. Like none of us are whole unless we get help from others. Like it's people that say, I don't need anybody. Well, those people full of shit to begin with. Because we all need something from someone. So my self-help has came in different avenues, different areas. So I don't know that I agree with that they wouldn't get help from others, because I think self-help is about awareness and about what other people brings to the table, and you want to bring those positives into you, into your heart, which helps you out. So that's one thing. And I think help needs to come from someone that has the wisdom to help them or has gone through the same thing and been helped and recovered. Yeah, that is true. But sometimes it comes from people who have not made it through, but you had conversations with them and you say, I don't want to end up like that. I talk to this person a lot. And I could tell you, shout out to my man Moody, who passed away, rest in peace, from Niagara Falls, that he got a lot of shout outs. And good guy growing up, but things turned sour for him. And, he died at a young age. I don't know, Moody, about 51, 52. But also, people got help from that to say, I can't end up like that.
Mhm.
I don't want to do certain things because somebody's close to me did that. So that's self-help right there. So it doesn't always have to be a positive situation. It could be learning from somebody that keeps going down the dead end street, and you say to yourself, I can't live like that. I don't want to do that. And that helps you out. And does a rant or lashing out in anger really do anything other than give a momentary respite? Well, lashing out, no, it doesn't. In the grand scheme of things, because when you look at anger and all that, it's okay to be angry or
Mhm.
upset. It's what you do with it that
Yeah.
matters. So if you lashing out and there's no purpose and nobody's listening, then it does no good. But if people start listening and look at the core issue or the root cause of it, then maybe you can start making some headway through it. But that depends on the individuals involved. So thanks, Greg, for your feedback. Appreciate that. But it's a lot. So to me, I think self help deals with positive and negative. You can learn from both situations. We don't always learn from positive situations. A lot of times we learn from mistakes people made,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
helps us.
Yeah. Billy Joel in the song, I can't remember the name of the song, but he said the only thing you that is truly yours are the mistakes that you make, something to that effect. So, and I want to actually touch on what you were saying about the Outlast. The Outlasters or the outbursts, they need to be directed. Far too often, what we had on this particular panel was just people out lashing out because they thought they were being victimized or they thought they were being painted in a bad way. And I said at the top of this broadcast, women bear an unfair burden when it comes to reproduction because, for better or worse, they have the results of their decision, good, bad, or different, in their hands. It's literally it's attached to them. They can't do anything with it until afterwards. So now, if you have that situation and you don't want to run from it, you want to embrace it, but people are still holding you in that position, you feel compelled to lash out because you think nobody's listening or you think everybody's against you. Well, it's not that anybody's against you, and it's not that anybody's trying to paint you or paint a woman with a particular brush, but we are seeing either your lack of maturity or your maturity. Do you go out and replicate the situation again? Or do you learn and say, okay, you know what? I erred once. I would not do it again. I've always, case in point, I've always said to myself, if I father a child out of wedlock, this was the oath I wanted to always keep to myself. It never came to pass. I said, I will not date until that child is an adult. Because for me, not speaking to anyone else, but for me, that child was worthy of my attentions and affections. And far too often, we have people that don't understand that once you have a child, you are no longer the most important thing. That child is.
Yes, there it is. So, people, we've talked about a lot. We covered a lot, and here we go again, man. 2022 is gone, man. It's pretty much gone. We about to head into 2023. And I always say life doesn't stand still for nothing. We approaching another year. Granted, a lot of us lost valuable people in our lives during this time. I know I have. Too many that like It's crazy. We're headed for another year that, I want to say knock on wood, but that's cliche and all that stuff. But we're sure to lose more valuable people coming up in this year. Some people health wise, some people violence wise, but we have to start thinking about what are we going to do different? What are we going to put in place? What changes are we going to make as we go on? Because again, this isn't guaranteed. This isn't guaranteed. And it's grave concerns now more than ever. Uh, and I can tell you, and I start feeling it. Like, I can say this, like, what I took for granted before when I would catch a common cold and, it would last 4 days or something. I'll be fine. And then, for a while when the COVID thing was going on, I never ended up with COVID, but then I ended up testing positive like in August. And, I've had a couple colds here and there, but it seemed like now every time you catch a cold now, the shit end up being worse. Like it just go on and on. You're like, damn, like when is this stuff gonna leave your system? It gets scary. So I don't know. And maybe that's just me. I don't know, and some people are like, oh, I never got my smell or ability to taste. I didn't go through that. But it just seems like a common cold isn't a common cold anymore.
Yeah.
It seems like it's just so much more to it. And you always got to be on your P's and Q's. And I know with Herb, you said, oh, that seasonal affective disorder and all that stuff. And I done hit a dry spout myself that I really haven't done anything. I was going to physical therapy, my neck, shoulder, back hurt like shit. As you get older, stuff happens. My neck, my back, all that. And you think about that, and it kind of stops you. But I said, all right, it's about to be the holiday season, but sooner or later in January, I got to kick this shit back in gear because
Yeah.
you can't make no excuses once you get older. You got to stay active. You got to do something.
Yeah.
You got to do something. I don't care what you. There's tons of things you could do around in your house or whatever that can guarantee you. Even if you have to, purchase a bike or something to ride around, and it's tons of things you could do because we can't make excuses or we can't just sit around and say, oh, I'll wait till April when the weather break. Nah, gee, we can't do that
Yeah.
because somebody will find you dead up in your spot, whatever, unless we keep it moving. So we have to challenge each other and hold each other accountable for that. And I want to give him a shout out. My man Willie A. Price, whatever. He keeps his program going, trying to work out, and all this stuff. That
Yeah.
we have to keep it moving, especially when we get a certain age. And it's not privy to people in 40s, 50s, or 60s because people 20s, 30s, and all that stuff, they're dying off fast too. So we have to stay focused on that. So that's something I want to charge everybody to try to do, and we have to hold each other accountable, even if we have to build up clubs or accountability. I guess we got to get accountability partners and stuff to push each other and stay on each other and bring the best out of each other. And I think if we could start forming groups to do that, and we may not be in the same cities, but we can, in this day and age, virtually, I think it would help a lot of people. And, you can make competitions out of anything. A few dollars, throw it in the pot, a weekly, monthly winner or something, doing this or that, gift cards or something. We got to make it fun. We got to bring the kid out of each other.
Yeah.
Each of us, and make it fun. And I guarantee you we could get results. That's something I'm throwing out there. I don't know if I want to be the one to coordinate it, but I'm just throwing ideas that just flash out. But I think that
Now, it's funny you say that because I remember earlier this year thinking about a weight loss contest, if you will, and something along that lines. But my thought process was to call it a quarter pounder without the cheese.
did you say the what?
Quarter pounder without the cheese, without the cheese, the weight loss. I'm thinking, hey, look, a penny a pound or whatever the case is, whoever has the greatest percentage of weight loss, you win.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we make everything fun, if we start forming groups and make everything fun, people will act on that. Even if you don't win, you may be happy for somebody else. We have to do something. We can't keep doing the same thing. Naomi said, I just ordered a row machine.
You'll get a workout.
Greg said,
"How a workout, boy? Believe me."
How old are you, David? 52, man. 52. I ain't gonna lie. I'm 52, but yeah, I still go through stuff. But hey, in any given time, I could still step on the basketball court and play. I don't know the injuries I'm gonna have after that.
I'm too damn heavy. My knees are like, yo, what you think this is?
But also, I've also learned from reading the Black Mama book, listen to your body. So I haven't stepped out, and usually my exercise now has been mainly walking or whatever the case is. I usually do some boxing stuff and all this stuff, but right now I got to get myself back into gear and can't say, okay, the head, neck, and all this stuff, I still got to put, because I've been kind of on the shelf for the last probably month and a half, but I know I can listen to my body now and say, okay, David, it's time to gear up. It's time to gear up and get back in the condition. But I think that's the thing. We have to find accountability partners for each other, and we have to go at it, and we have to keep living. We have to, because the scary thing is I don't know if this younger generation is ready to survive without us. I don't know. I know people say, well, they don't have no choice, but I'm scared for them.
They have a choice. They can always fold up, and that's the easy thing to do. The easy thing to do is to fold up. Just it's a, for lack of a better term, they're calling it now lying flat. Where people, mainly Zillennials, they're not working. I just saw somewhere, and I don't recall where the report was published, that I think there's 52% of men are not working. I don't know how that functions. It's an alien thought to me to not work. Even I don't have a family to support, but the concept of not working and being working age, I don't know what that is. I just don't.
And I think that plays a big factor in when you don't have nothing to do or have nowhere to go and no destination. That's kind of scary, whatever. So it's just, and I'm only saying this because as we close out this year, it's a lot. It's a lot to think about, and I think the strength is in the numbers. We have to pull together, and we have to make things happen, because if not, 2023 gonna look a lot like these other years. And man, I don't. Some of the significant losses we had, I don't. And I know it's inevitable, it's going to happen, but I think some things that we could try to prevent if we just stay a little healthier and work together and have peace and harmony between us. And I think that's critical.
Yeah, I concur. I really do.
So we gonna get ready to close out this conversation. I would have loved for some of the ladies to come in and join in, but we'll be back. Now next week, Monday show. I don't know what's that date. Or the 26th. I don't know if we'll be having a broadcast because I'll probably be back in my hometown, and more than likely we probably wouldn't have a broadcast, but so it'll probably be whatever that following Monday is in the new year. But I've been to Cataract City for a few days. Anybody want to have some eggnog, get some cold one or whatever? Get at me. And we can hang out. And I think that's what it's about, being festive and just enjoying people that you can relate to and get along with, and just closing out the year on a positive note and heading into 2023 with some positivity, because certainly we can use it. So,
Yeah.
any closing comments you have tonight, Herb?
No, I actually, but Greg just posted a very a very the only way I can term it is an excellent question. He says, excellent future topic. Are we headed up or down? Black community, white community, nation. How do we change that direction?
Hmm.
And I think that is a very worthy topic.
I'm gonna write that. I'm gonna definitely write that down uh, as we move forward, because we don't have to always have the conversations based on what me and Herb said. We always want to solicit what other people want to talk about, and we want to do research and look up those topics. So I'm definitely gonna write that down and put that as a talking point for the next show. And usually, we used to have 4, 5, 6 talking points, but now I realize you get wiser and say, "Oh, we only need 2,"
Yeah.
because we can just go through them too. Shout out to my family, Chef Welch. Can't wait to see you, fam, in Niagara Falls. I appreciate that you enjoyed the show, and I've been following you on YouTube and cooking up stuff, so you already know. You already know what's gonna happen, right? So you better prepare a meal. All that shrimp pasta, Cajun, all that stuff. I'm coming to Aunt Viola house, and you go make the controversial counselor meal. I hope you hear me. I hope you hear me, because I'm coming through. I'm pulling up on you, Nikita. Appreciate you, fam. Love you. Safe travels to Niagara Falls, and you already know you have to get on that grill or whatever you got to do, because I'm gonna be hungry too. I love you, fam. So, uh, Marcia said, "Happy holidays, David and Herb. Happy holidays to
Yeah,
you as
to you
well.
too, to everyone
Stay
else
safe,
listening.
be well, man, and just be grateful and say, hey, we got to do something different in 2023, man. Every day we wake up, we give it another chance to do
Yeah.
something different, to impact. And I always said, life is about service to others. There's no greater, there's no greater thing to provide service to others, to help others accomplish things. And if you're not doing that and you're not helping no one else, I don't know where you should be,
Yeah.
under a rock or somewhere. But to me, that's the greatest reward, to help others accomplish and feel better. Let me see what. See you soon. You laughing? I don't know what the emojis mean, but I'm dead ass. But I see you soon too. So that's it, man. I don't know. Did you get your closing comments, Herb? I got sidetracked. Just
Nah, you know what though? At work, I because it's the off season, and I tend to have a little bit of downtime. Especially when there's me and the other gentleman working. I love old theme songs to TV shows, and I want people. I want to preface what I'm getting ready to say. If you are experiencing some sort of depression, turn this off. 'Cause, 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 ' Okay. I believe most of us are aware of the TV show MASH. I'm on YouTube and I'm thumbing through the theme song and I click on the link for the original version of the song. Let's just say I will never listen to that song in the same way. If you want to, look it up on YouTube, but make sure, and I stress this, make sure that you are prepared to have your latitude shifted a few degrees. It was not what I expected. It was highly ironic given the show and what the show was about, but a lot of stuff came out of that war that probably kind of prompted that song. And apparently the lyrics were written by a 14-year-old and his father composed the music. So just keep that in mind. It was, like I said, I'll never view that theme song the same way. And I've heard a couple of different versions of the song. I have one on tape that I really do just like it. No words, just cool. But like I said, I will never view that theme song the same way. And of course, as always, growth and understanding occurs in a gray area. Godspeed. See you next time.
All right, my closing comments. We've been kind of all over the place with different things, and when you think about the initial conversation, go back to my notes. Not looking for a relationship to last, only to smash. We don't know. Sometimes we don't know what we're going into. Uh, but again, I think it's all about the power of getting to know someone, and I think that's critical when you talk about relationships, or even when we look at talking point number two, such as how many like social status, sexual status, all of that stuff plays into a factor. But again, and I had made this point on, to me, it's all about who can make you feel like a kid, make you uh, and that's for me because again, some people didn't have great childhoods, uh, so they may want to bump past that stage. But I think it's about love, laughter, joy, peace, security, and all of those things. And I think those are components that we need to have functional relationships with anyone. You can't tell me if you can't have love, that's a downfall. You can't have laughter. If you don't have security, peace, joy, or anything, I think sometimes that's how we have to use our measuring stick to look
Mm-hmm.
at certain little words and say, damn, do I got laughter? Am I able to laugh with this person? Hell no, we don't laugh. We don't. I don't get nothing she says. She don't get nothing I says.
Yeah.
Uh, do we? Are we at peace? No. When I do have peace, she interrupted, or I interrupt her peace. Do we have joy? You have to start thinking. We have to go back to the basics and look at certain things. And there always people always say, look at the root cause, look at the root word of what this means, and then you have to look at that, and then you have to say, okay, let me see where this person falls under this measuring stick. And if they don't fit any of that, you have your answer. What are you holding on to? What are you holding on to? And we just have to start thinking, take our thoughts a little deeper as we close out 2022. And I want to wish everybody have a great time with family, friends during this holiday season. And we talked about, was that last week or the week before, about people who don't have that. If you don't have that, you don't have to have be around a big family. Just you
Yeah,
could be around one or two people that
yeah.
brings joy to you, and you have a good time. Enjoy someone during this time. And if you don't believe in it or not, to me, it's bigger than Christmas and all that. It's just the time of the year that we designate to show love, appreciation, and try to have a good time. Because again, sometimes it's not it's not promised that next year around this time that these same individuals will be around. So think about that. So people that's traveling far in between and you come together, enjoy it. Enjoy it to them because you don't know if that's going to be the last time you see that individual. And I'm just being real. I don't want to be providing any spookism on people, but I just think it's just being thinking forward and just being real. So
Hold
again,
up, hold up, hold up before we go. Ah,
got somebody coming. You got the pizza delivery person delivering. I don't know what Herb got going on. But just gonna come through with this.
like I said last week, if you have not watched it, do. Okay. It just covers some of the things that Dave was talking about being by yourself this time of year. You may not celebrate. I don't celebrate, but I'm still going to have some fun. Watch the movie.
Up in the air. Where
Yes.
could you watch? Could you watch? You have to have. You could watch that on like YouTube or streaming somewhere.
I'm not sure. I don't stream movies. I don't have Netflix. I don't have a Hulu account. Everything that I watch is on DVD. That's just the way I roll. But I'm sure, given this movie's popularity when it came out and George Clooney being the lead, I'm sure you'd probably be able to find it on one of those streaming services. If not, check your local library. I
I'm just
know
writing it down.
some local libraries, if you have a library membership there, you can get movies for free. So
I'm just
check there. Like
writing
I
it
said,
down.
I personally think it's an excellent movie. It well, let me read what it says. It says Ryan Bingham is living the high life, flying all over the world on business. He never stops moving until he meets Alex, a fellow passenger, and learns that life isn't about the journey, but the connections we make along the way.
Well, that says enough. It's. I think John Witten, the great John Witten, said, "It's not a. It's not. It's not about the end result. It's about the journey,
Mhm.
the process, because a lot of times we reach our destination and then what? And that's one of the biggest things. Like when couples say, "Oh, the journey is to get married," then you get married. Now what? Y'all
Yeah.
just looking at each other. What's next? What are you gonna do next? Y'all say, "Oh, as a couple, we're gonna come together. We're about to build this business. We're about to do that." Because remember, we say love turns into a business, whatever. So it's all about the stuff in between the journey that makes everything special. Because the end result comes to an end, then then after a while you have to load up and say, okay, now we got to do something different. That's why when graduation ceremonies, high school, college, and all that, I don't get gun ho over certain ceremonies as an educator. uh I think ultimately high school in this day and age, it's a step. College, okay, but then you have to say what's next. So to me, when you start saying you're getting jobs and promotions, that's a big celebration to me. I ain't into no hype of celebrating. Oh, my kid graduate from kindergarten. They ain't graduate from shit. Uh, they're gonna
I
move
thought I
up
was the only one that felt
regardless.
like that. Yeah,
They're
I
gonna
don't.
move up regardless. You don't graduate from elementary to middle school. You don't graduate from middle school. You're just it's a moving up. And if you don't decide, if the kid don't want to move up, essentially they're forced to move up because you can't be at a certain level at a certain time. But in high school, you can be there from pretty much 13 to 21. 8 years. As crazy as sound. So that to me, that's an accomplishment for the people that go through in 4 years and knock it out same as well as college. So think about those whole processes too. All right, then y'all like, okay, these closing comments usually end fast. What they just rambling on. But all right, we're gonna get out of here. But just think about everything we put in place. You know me, I always follow back with my closing comments the next day with a little YouTube short. But I don't know, there's so much that we said. But again, I just want everybody to be safe, be well, and see you in 2023. It's crazy as hell that we saying that. And check out her movie Up in the Air during this time. If you got downtime and you just want to watch some movies and you want to get some professional growth, there's nothing wrong with that. I do a lot of that sometimes watching movies, and I take talking points from the movie, and I use them as talking points as well. All right, we out. Sorry to keep rambling on, just enjoying y'all while we can. Everybody be safe.
Yes, sir.
Enjoy the post in the counselor's corner because they're not going to stop. We're still going to keep it moving, and we'll probably see you in the counselor's corner after. We'll see you in the counselor's corner after the holidays. So everybody be safe. Peace and love, and we'll see you. And everybody be safe during the
Hey,
holiday
we back.
season. Peace. This guy.